Alright guys, today we're going to look at the recent fight between Triple G and Danny Jacobs. In most people's opinion, the fight was very close and it could have gone either way. So we're going to take a look at it round by round, examining the fight for clean punches, effective aggression, defense, and ring generalship. We're also going to take some breaks in between for film study reasons to admire and point out specific techniques and strategies of the fighters that help them influence these scoring criteria. Without further ado, let this battle of wits begin. As you see, the fight starts out with both fighters kind of using their left hand to kind of jockey for position, create openings for offense. At its most basic level, it's a way to control your opponent without committing to a punch or walking into a big shot. Right there, they both kind of come to the same conclusion and jab each other. A little feint into a hook from Jacobs to create space. And now, Golovkin's going to do something really cool right here. He's going to feint a jab, and he's going to turn it into a hook, and he's going to try to get Danny Jacobs to block the hook and turn away from it to take the power away from it, and then launch a right hand. Let's see how Jacobs handles it. Boom. He just kind of moves out of the way. You know, it's a little too early for that. They're still a little skittish and trying to feel each other out. We'll see how that changes throughout the course of the fight, though. And then right after that, failed technique, which is beautiful boxing regardless. Golovkin moves right back to the center of the ring. Strong jab to Jacobs and commands, becomes the ring general. Takes back control. Here we go. And notice after that, Jacobs doesn't just punch with him. He has to stop and get set. Before he throws any punches almost throughout the entire fight, or this entire round at least, he always makes sure that he's set. And that's a real tell for Golovkin to figure out when he's going to set up his own offense. Throws a jab, sets again, moves back, set, jab, set, moves back, set, and he feints, and he does this little dip right here. And I kind of get the sense that he's expecting Golovkin to jab, because he's got something for him. And we're going to find out what that is in a couple seconds, but just notice, and let's watch what Golovkin does to get Golovkin to jab. There you go, he jabs, he's set up, Golovkin feints him, and he moves, control, and he notices that as soon as he punches, Golovkin punches with him. So what does Danny Jacobs do? Jab. He's going to set a trap with his own jab right here. He sets a trap, he's going to throw this jab, and he's not going to let it land right there. And he slides under it and creates all that offense. Now let's take a look at it one more time. We're going to do it in slow-mo again. He jabs. The jab doesn't land. And then Golovkin says, hey, I'm punching with him. I'm trying to counter. So he punches over the top. And in order to stop him from falling in and smothering the offense that Danny Jacobs has worked so hard to set up, he puts his forearm on Golovkin's body to stop him from coming in, and then he lets go of his offense. Now let's take a look at what these punches are. A left hook right there, another left hook, and then a right hand that's blocked. And now I think one of those left hooks lands, and I think the other one kind of gets blocked, and then obviously the right hand right there gets blocked. It's really flashy stuff. It's a really interesting technique for Danny Jacobs to set up off of Golovkin's jab. He did a great job of creating the space, but it didn't amount to a lot of offense, but good job landing that one punch. Moving on. Now they're back to the center of the ring. Golovkin starts throwing his real powerful jab, pushing Jacobs back to the ropes. And right there you see it again. Danny Jacobs stops, plants himself, and then he expects a jab, so he slips inside of it. And I don't know what he's setting him up for. Maybe we'll find out at the end of the round. But he's trying to work off of Golovkin's jab. So let's see what Golovkin does. Because I think he's figured that out by now too. Good jab from Jacobs right there. A lot of jabs so far. I think Jacobs is the only one that's landed anything other than a jab. Let's take a look at this technique right here. Danny Jacobs is going to control Golovkin at the end of his jab, and then he's going to throw a hook, and I think it's a probing hook to occupy his guard. It gets it gets Golovkin to bring his hands up, and then after, he kind of throws a jab to the body. So control, hook, boom, and then throws a great body shot. Beautiful boxing right there. Really good stuff right there. Moving forward, Golovkin sees he's in the middle of the ring, throws a hard jab, another hard jab. I don't know if that one landed, but he's trying to push Gennady Jacobs back. Now, what was going on right there, right? That exchange starts off with Golovkin landing a jab. So he eats a jab first. Gennady Jacobs gets him to open up with a jab, but I don't know if he's ready. And immediately after Gennady Jacobs starts moving in, Golovkin throws another jab. So here's the first one. Controls him with his left hand, and then opens up with the right hand right there. Another time where Gennady Jacobs is trying to use Golovkin's jab to set up his own offense, but he got controlled and was pushed out by Golovkin's awareness of this. And he has great defense and winds up getting out. Right here, there's going to be another instance of Gennady Jacobs trying to make offense off of Golovkin's jab. Boom, he lands a jab, and then look at Gennady Jacobs throwing a left hook right here, misses, and then a right hand, and that's all off of Golovkin's jab. Again, he's spending a lot of energy and a lot of time in this round trying to take the jab of Golovkin away because it's such a powerful tool. But he's not doing a very good job of it at the moment. So let's see where he goes from there. I think that was a decent jab from Jacobs, and then a miss to the body. Let's see what's going on here. All right, he does some feinting and some more control. Jab, holds his hand out there, stops Gennady Jacobs from being able to control him. Now, check that out right there. Look how tentative Golovkin is throughout that little exchange right there. He sees Gennady Jacobs set down, and he's in position to punch. We all know he's going to set some kind of offense up, and Golovkin's wary of it. He knows that he's trying to lure him into a trap off of his jab. So what does he do? He's very tentative, and right after he sets that up, Gennady Jacobs bends down to his right leg, expecting a counter jab from Golovkin again, so he can kind of smother him and let off some offense like he did earlier. But Golovkin's not having any of it. So where does Gennady Jacobs go from here? He dips down again, throws another jab, sits, dips down, feints, and then moves out, right? Still trying to force Golovkin into making a mistake with his jab so that he can attempt to take that weapon away from him. Feints. And now that's beautiful right there. After showing him all of those dips down after every single control, this one, he actually throws a punch after instead, right? Dip, boom, and then he lands a jab. Great jab. That's great mind game. He outplayed Golovkin in this sense and was able, after all of that, to finally land a jab. So let's see where he goes with that. See, and right there, now Gennady Jacobs kind of is on his bicycle, really. He's kind of walking, and he's not planted. And Golovkin says, hey, that's my opportunity to throw some big shots. So that's what he does. Now, right here, boom, he dips, feints, and then control. He uses his little jab feint again, and Golovkin jabs over the top of him. And he falls for the little trick. Let's slow it down a little bit and show you why. So the last time he did that, he dipped down, and then he's shown Golovkin every other time that if Golovkin doesn't react to it, he'll reset and walk off and try again. But this time he doesn't. And now he's shown previously in the other one, after he did this, he would actually land the punch. So Golovkin believes him this time and commits to offense and winds up getting tangled up And Danny Jacobs does the kind of like Andre Ward thing where he moves into a position where they're going to have to be broken up by putting his head under his arm and then throw some punches. And as you can see, those punches don't land. One lands on the hip, one hits him in the neck with his forearm, and there's no real offense. It looks kind of flashy in real time, but nothing going on here. They go back to the middle of the ring. Golovkin's very wary now of the fact that Danny Jacobs is trying to set up all of his offense off of his jab, and he elects not to use it. I think that's kind of a mistake, but there you go. He sees him set down, throws a jab, sees him moving, throws a jab. And now right here, he anticipates a jab again, so he dips down. Oh, another one right there. Feint, feint, and then he dips to the left, or to his left, and tries to bait Golovkin into throwing a right hand so he can counter again. It looks like a lot of the stuff that Danny Jacobs is doing is based on timing and trying to set Golovkin up with kind of very basic and mediocre traps, rather than setting his punches up with other punches and head movements to get him to react to that, but timing based. Anyway, now that the round is over, we can kind of talk about scoring. I had each fighter landing 9 punches, 9 jabs for Golovkin. There was a slapping left hook from Danny Jacobs in that first flurry that landed, and then 8 jabs from Jacobs. Seemingly a very close round in punches. Looking at ring generalship, we have Golovkin owning the ring almost all round. Defense was pretty even, and that just leaves effective aggression. I had them landing the same amount of punches, but Jacobs wasn't always throwing his punches to be aggressive. There were lots of times where he was just light jabs to create distance, whereas all of Golovkin's punches were to be aggressive. I think that means that Golovkin was the effective aggressor, and I think the whole reason this is a scoring criteria in the first place is to reward the fighter who is making the fight, quote unquote, and creating action, as opposed to the fighter who is mitigating it, i.e., performing the Andre Ward, I'll say, where he tries to slow the action down and the amount of opportunities he has to set up offense by creating entanglements, like sliding his head under his arm. And while it's probably not appropriate to say a fighter should be penalized for doing this, because it's basically just clinching, it's technically not illegal. So that means that I actually have no problem with part of the scoring criteria being geared to edge toward the fighter who is quote-unquote making the fight. Now, with that said, although scoring criteria isn't supposed to be subjective, it often is, and such close rounds leave so much room for bias when the scoring criteria isn't correctly creating, or when the scoring criteria is creating swing rounds because of that subjectivity, with the rounds that quote-unquote could go either way. So when the scoring criteria is subjective and not clearly defined or clearly followed, I think rounds like this should be scored evenly, being a 10-10 round, rather than scoring the round for either fighter, putting more of an emphasis on making them have more engagements to create more, to make it so that it's more obvious who won the round, because there's more opportunities to score rather than less, and creating more ambiguity. So I'm giving this an even round, but I'm going to mark it with a little G in parentheses, because if I did give it to somebody based on current standards of boxing scoring, I would definitely give it to Golovkin, for sure. So that's the end of the first round. We're going to go ahead and move on to the second round in my next video. All right, and I hope you enjoyed this battle of wits.